You know, one of the most dangerous things about veering off is taking a sudden change in direction. Sometimes you can find yourself going so far off course that it seems almost impossible to make it back onto the road or the path or the direction that you were once on. There's a lot of different ways we hear this word veering off. You can hear it said, you know, this person veered off in the conversation, meaning this person just took the whole conversation into a whole another direction, or the wind is veering off. And a most common one that we hear often, or that I've heard often, is someone actually veering off the road. And what that means is this person lost some type of control over the wheel, whether they were distracted by being on their phone, whether they were distracted by a conversation, whether they were distracted by eating or drinking or even driving under the influence. We hear that phrase veering off the road, and that means that this person lost full control. This person took a sudden change in direction, like they were going this way at some point, and then suddenly, and this word suddenly has been being highlighted in this season for many of us. So abruptly, you know, this car is now shifting. This car is now going into a complete different direction. And most of the time when we hear of people veering off the road, it never ends well. You know, they end up getting into a car wreck or driving off a cliff when I've heard it, or just being in a total different direction, being in a whole nother way, road apart from where they were going. And so we can begin to veer off in our faith. If we don't keep our eyes on Jesus, you know, if we don't stay focused on Jesus, then we can find ourselves veering off in the faith. And you may say, well, what does that look like to veer off in the faith? That can look like a lot of different things. Peter comes to my mind when I think about actually veering off and losing focus on the direction that I'm supposed to be headed on or focused on. And so most of us, we know Peter. We know that he was one of Jesus' closest disciples. And I think one of the most common things that we know about Peter is he was the one not only who betrayed Jesus, but who actually walked on water. Yes, Peter walked on water. Peter is also known for the one who began to sink after walking on water. And I want to look at that because I believe Peter is a really good example of what it can look like to veer off. Because we can start off focusing on Jesus. God can be my focus. God can be my everything. But what happens when I begin to focus on the things around me? What happens when my vision becomes blurred and I begin to veer off in my faith because, you know, the situation or the circumstance, or I'm going through a fiery season and that's beginning to cause me to be unstable. That begins to cause me to be wavering in my faith and in my walk. That begins to cause me to lose sight because of what I see and what I feel. And so in Matthew 14, I believe, Matthew 14, verse, let's see, I'm going to start at verse 24. So this is Matthew 14, verse 24. It says, but the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. So Jesus had sent his disciples ahead of him. Once, I believe they got done feeding the 5,000. I don't know, I may be mixing some stories. But anyways, Jesus sent them ahead of him to go to the other side. And so they were on this ship. And as they were on this ship, there must have been a very boisterous, strong, aggressive, violent storm on the sea, because it says that the waves were all over the place and the wind was contrary. The wind was very strong. And it says, in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, his disciples, walking on the sea. And so this is not normal. People don't walk on water. People don't walk in the middle of the ocean. Most of us, if we see anything like that, we're going to be moving that boat pretty fast. We're going to be rowing pretty fast. Or we're going to be talking to the captain like, hey, can you move this boat along? And it says in verse 26, and when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled. Yeah. Can you imagine these grown men? Can you just visualize yourself in their shoes? Like, your stomach might go to your back. I don't know, because this is not normal. Wait, how is someone walking on the water? This must be a spirit. And so that's what the disciples thought. They were afraid, saying it is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. I giggle and I chuckle when I read this, because I can see these grown men, probably trying to move this boat very, very fast and crying out like, oh God, please save us. We don't know what this is. We don't know what manner of spirit this person is of, but we see a spirit. And I love how Jesus just intervenes and brings us comfort. He says this in verse 27, but straightway Jesus spoke unto them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. So he just intervenes and releases this peace over them. And Peter answers him and said, Lord, if it be you, bid me to come to you on the water. And that took faith for Peter to do that. You may say, but he drowned. Yeah, but it took faith for him to even say something like that. Most people wouldn't even tell the Lord, if it's you, to call me up on the water. Most of us would not even get to that place. And we notice that the other disciples did not even do that. And it says this in verse 29, and he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water. Peter walked on the water. It's written down. It's recorded. He walked on the water. Point blank, period. It doesn't matter what happened before. It doesn't matter what happened after. He walked on the water to go to Jesus. And it says this, when he saw. So a lot of times we allow our senses, meaning our sight, our hearing, our feeling, our smelling, our touching, or our tasting, we allow these things to control us, because a lot of times we make decisions, we live based on what we see and what we hear, and a lot of times what we feel, what we can feel, how we feel. Jesus says, be careful how you see or how you hear. He says, be careful and how you see too. He doesn't say it like he says how you hear, but he says other things referring to what you see, how you see, not to set wicked things before your eyes. The light of the body is the eye. And so we make decisions based on those things right there. And so it says, when he saw, so Peter began to make a sudden change based on sight, what he saw. It says, and when he saw the wind boisterous, aggressive, because his sight, one of his senses, he began to lean on his own senses. When he saw the wind boisterous, it said he was afraid. And this is how we are many times when we're going through things. We begin to focus on the storm around us. We begin to focus on that instead of Jesus. We begin to veer off because we can't see Jesus. A lot of times that's where unbelief will come in at. Well, man, I can't see Jesus, but I see the situation. And it's real. You know what I'm saying? I see this money in this account and it's negative and it's real. I see these lights off and it's real. I see, this confrontation right here, this altercation right here, and it's real. I see it. I feel it. We feel things. We see things. And so Peter was in a real situation to where he saw the storm. He saw the wind. It says that it was boisterous, meaning it was aggressive. And it says he was afraid and he began to sink. He began to sink. A lot of people right now are sinking in their faith because of fear, because of their situation, because of their circumstance and what they're going through right now. God is saying, lean on me, fall on the rock. He's saying, trust me. Yes, I know you're afraid, because sometimes, depending on what we're going through, it can be life-threatening, meaning this thing could cause you to be put in a deadly situation or a very threatening situation to where your life is at stake, or possibly things can be taken from you. And so you could feel like, man, no, this is a very real situation, Lord. You know what I'm saying? Like, this can potentially cause harm to me. This can potentially affect me in a negative way, in a bad way. And so a lot of times we want to take control. And so in this moment, Peter wanted to take some control by setting his mind, setting his eyes on this storm. The wind, it says it was very boisterous and he became afraid. And so the moment he took his eyes off of Jesus, then that's when fear entered in, because while he was focused on Jesus, while his eyes, he set his eyes on the wind, but while his eyes was on Jesus, he was walking. And in him setting his eyes on Jesus, Jesus was leading him. There was a form of control that Jesus had that Peter did not have, because in that moment, he was vulnerable. He was very vulnerable, meaning he was open. Okay, you told me to come. And so I'm going to do this by faith. I'm going to do this and not realizing, wait a minute, I'm walking on water. Wait a minute, like, people don't do this. People don't walk on water. He began to focus. He took his eyes off of this and he began to veer off, meaning a sudden change in direction. Do you know what veering off means? The word veering off, it means to swerve or zigzag, or a change in direction suddenly, instantly. You know, I don't want to say spontaneously, but abruptly. Yeah, something just takes your focus quickly. And sometimes it can happen so fast that you can't even make it back to get on that path. You can't even come back to the road. Yeah, that car just ran off the road. What happened? Well, the person was distracted. Something else had that person's attention. Yeah, when you see the news and that person got in a car accident and they tell you what happened, the story, the rundown, yeah, well, that person was texting while driving. That person was eating. That person started to fall asleep. That person was putting on makeup. That person was trying to change the radio station. Something else took their focus. Something else took their attention. And so he was afraid, and guess what? He began to sink. He began to drown. He began to drown. And it says he cried, "Save me, Lord. Save me, Lord." And it says immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt? Why did you doubt that I could change this situation? Why did you doubt that I was with you? Why did you doubt that I was going to make your end better than your beginning, your latter greater than your beginning? Why did you doubt? Why did you doubt that I hear your prayers? Why did you doubt that I love you? Why did you doubt that I was going to teach you how to walk on water and I was going to lead you to me? Why did you doubt that I had you?" Yeah, Jesus had Peter. Peter wasn't drowning before, but the moment he took his eyes off of Jesus, the moment we take our eyes off of God, that's when we begin to drown. The moment we begin to doubt within ourselves, and we doubt that God loves us, and we doubt that God wants to keep us and to have us walk on water, then that's when we're going to begin to drown. The moment we start to focus on the storm, yeah, I know there's lightning going on. Jesus knows that the rain is heavy and it's hard and it's coming down strong. He knows that the winds are boisterous, meaning the winds are strong and they're aggressive and you can hear it. It's knocking up against the window and the trees are seeming like they're going to fall. He knows that the storm seems so loud that you can't even hear his voice. He knows that there's lightning and thunder. He knows that there's hail falling. He knows that it's chaotic, it seems like a hurricane outside. He knows these things. He knows what was going on, but he was trying to teach Peter how to focus. And that's what he's trying to do with us right now. Focus. Focus past your situation. Don't let your situation tell you who God is. No, you tell your situation who God is. That your God is bigger. Your God is stronger. Your God is mightier. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what the government's telling you and who you owe. The car dealership's telling you they're going to repo your car because you just don't have it, because they cut your hours at work or they laid you off. No, those things doesn't matter. Those circumstances cannot move you. The storm cannot move you. The wind cannot move you. The rain cannot move you. You have to be rooted and grounded in Jesus. You have to be so focused that no matter what's going on the side of you, that this is you. You cannot veer off. You have to be so focused that nothing else can grab your attention. Yeah, I know that there's stuff going on right here and stuff going on right there, but I have to be so focused that I tune it all out. I block it out, because what's right here is more important than what's on the side of me. Yeah, this person driving on the road, if they begin to focus on what's happening to the left and the right of them, then they're going to veer off. Yeah, you see stuff going on over here and you see stuff going on over here. Yeah, this person, they're doing their own thing. This person, they're texting while driving, and, there's stuff happening behind you. There's a storm going on. But listen, your job And your focus in this moment is to focus on the car ahead of you. They tell you that when you're running. If you've ever ran track, or if you've ever been to a track meet, or if you've ever watched it on TV, they tell you to focus on what's in front of you. I used to run track. I ran track in elementary school and I ran track in middle school. One of the things that my coach would always tell me is to on focus on what's in front of me. Focus on the finish line. That's what I was told. Don't focus on this person and where they are at. Don't focus on this person and where they're at. Because in a race, you have people on the sides of you. You have people on both sides of you, depending on if you're at the very end, the far right or the far left. A lot of times you're the person in the middle or somewhere in between. And you have to train yourself. I had to train myself because I was one who was easily distracted, meaning if I saw in my peripheral someone getting close, I would look to the side. And it's sad that where your head goes, the rest of your body follows. So with Peter, the moment he began to veer off in his vision took him off. His desires, his senses took him off. And that's when he began to drown. So the moment that we veer off and we take our eyes off of the focus and the goal, guess what? Your whole body is going to fall in line. Your whole body is going to go where you go. Yeah, if I turn to the left, my whole body is going to eventually follow. If I turn to the right, my whole body is going to eventually follow. It's going to follow. And so when I would run track, I would have to train myself that no matter what it looks like, I got to keep going. I got to keep going because it can look like this person is gaining up on me. It can look like this person is about to pass me. But as long as I keep my eyes on the finish line, as long as I stay focused, then it's not a guarantee. But the moment I begin to turn, because that takes a lot. That takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot more effort to actually have to turn your head. And the moment you do that, it slows you down. It slows you down because you had a pace. You had a momentum, and you were running really, really good. And I want to tie that in with your walk of faith. Your walk of faith. You were running really, really good in the race. You were running really good. You were keeping momentum. You were keeping pace. You were not allowing things to move you. But the moment you begin to set your eyes on your situation and your circumstance and your troubles or whatever you're going through, you begin to focus on that instead of God. And God is saying to cast your burdens. He says to take his yoke and his burdens, for they are easy and they are light. So the moment you begin to withhold your heart from God and look to the left and to the right, then of course you're going to be unstable. Of course you're going to be easily shaken. Of course you're going to be easily moved. And so we have to get to a place in our walk and in this race where we are so focused on God that no matter what's happening to my left or my right, that I don't turn to it. I don't turn my head when I'm running. When I'm running, no, I can't afford to look to the right or to the left and worried about where other people are and worried about what the situation is. No. God said he will never leave you nor forsake you. He said to put your trust in him. He says that his truth shall be a shield. He says that if you abide under the shadows of the Almighty, then he will keep you. He will keep you from falling. He will guide and order your step. No, he will keep your feet from slipping. But you got to trust him. Yeah. A lot of us can look at Peter and be like, yeah, man, he's sank. You sank, Peter. You begin to drown. Yeah. But at least he had the faith to get out of the boat. At least he had the faith to say, Lord Jesus, if it's you, then call me out to you. Yeah. I heard it said oftentimes that we got to be like a Peter in all of our situations. No, I got to be like Peter in this situation. What does that mean? Peter was bold. No, I got to be bold. I got to just take a risk. A lot of times because of fear, out of fear, we won't ask Jesus to tell us to do something. Lord, if that's you, then call me out to you. Lord, if this is you, we will not go to God and ask God for his consent or for his permission. Lord, if this is you, then, close that door. Lord, if this is you, open this door. Lord, if this is you, then give me a sign. Lord, if this is you, give me confirmation. Many times we won't do that because we're afraid. We're afraid of the outcome. We're afraid of the response. But Peter, he was bold. He was bold. He said, Lord, if that's you, tell me to come out. And so a lot of times when you hear it said, be a Peter, that's saying be bold, be courageous. No, ask the Lord for his consent. Ask the Lord for confirmation. Ask the Lord, Lord, if this is you, show me. Don't be afraid of the outcome. Don't be afraid of what he might take you through or what he might require of you. Be a Peter. Be a Peter. And as you are being a Peter, trust and keep your eyes on the Lord. Trust him. I'm telling you, his truth, it is a shield, it is a barrier, and it blocks out all fear. It blocks out the other voices that tell you, what are you doing? What are you doing? Peter, you can't walk on water. Are you crazy? Who walks on water? Yeah. It's a barrier, and it blocks out all the strange voices. It's a barrier, and it blocks out the other things, the other sources, the opposition. It blocks those things out. What would have happened if the disciples would have begun to talk to Peter and tell Peter, what are you doing? Peter, no, you cannot walk on water. No, you're not Jesus. And what if he would have begun to yield to those voices using his senses? Yeah, his ears. Jesus says, be careful how you hear. But what if Peter would have begun to yield to those things around him, keeping him back from actually experiencing walking on water, actually beginning to partake in what Jesus was doing? Yeah. Because of your boldness, Peter, I'm going to let you do what I'm doing. Because we don't think that we can do what Jesus did. And Jesus says that he that believed in me, or he that believes on me, the works that I do, will he do also in greater works. And so we can't look at the word of God, read it, and feel like, man, I can never do those things. If you couldn't do it, then Jesus would never tell you that you could do it. They would never be in his word. But because it's written down for your record and for your example, then you can do these things that you see in the word of God. Jesus says that we will do greater works than he did. So not only can you walk on water, but you can stay on it. You can stay walking on the water, and you don't have to drown as long as you keep your eyes focused on him. As long as I am focused on Jesus, meaning you're so focused that you have a laser sharp focus. Like your focus is narrow. It's right here. You're not concerned about what's happening to your left or your right. You have babies crying in the background. You have naysayers. You have backbiters. You have gossipers. You have family members. You have friends. You have work. You have life. You have sicknesses and virus. All of these different things are going on around you. But you know what? You are so focused that you are not concerned with what's going on around you. And everybody's trying to figure out, how are you not moved? How are you not shaken up? How are you not feeling like how we're feeling? Like, how come you're not feeling the way we're feeling? Because I'm so focused. Matter of fact, you're so focused that you don't even know that these things are happening in the world. Not that you're completely oblivious, because we know that the Spirit of God, he reveals his secrets to his servants, the prophet, and he does not do anything except he tells them first. No, I don't do anything in the earth except I first reveal it to my prophet. And so it's not that you're completely oblivious to what's going on in the world, but you're so focused that you don't allow yourself to be open to the emotions that's being released through what's happening in the world. Because things that are happening that you see on the news, those things are purpose and designed to move you in your emotions, to get you to feel all kinds of ways, because that's how we make decisions. We make decisions based on what we see and how we feel. Like I said, our senses. And so if they're talking about people veering off the road on the news and that person getting into a car accident, then that's going to do something to your emotion. If they're talking about, a white police officer killing a black person, and that's going to do something to your emotion. If they're talking about a new virus, a new sickness, a new COVID, a new pandemic, then that's going to do something to your emotion. That's going to cause you to feel a kind of weight. If they tell you about this earthquake that happened in Turkey or whatnot, or Venezuela, then that's going to do something to your emotions. If they talk about a drought happening in California, or if they talk about a mass shooting, that's going to do something to your emotions, because it's designed to do that. It's designed to pull on your emotions. It's designed to provoke fear and to open the door to fear and to open the door to doubt and unbelief and to make you feel like, where is God? And to take your concentration off of God and off of Jesus. Yeah. This is why we have to be so grounded and so intentional in our faith that nothing around us takes our focus off of God. No, it's vital. It's vital. It's critical. Do you know that it's so important to keep your eyes stayed on the Lord? Because if you veer off, then there's a possibility that you may not be able to get back on course. If you swerve to the left because this situation pulled you, your emotions were pulled, your emotions were moved. If this situation caused you to go on a zigzag, then yeah, you might hit a roadblock. You might hit a wall. You might hit something. And you may not be able to come back to that place. You may not be able to find your peace again. You may not be able to get your joy again. You may not be able to get your love again. You may not be able to have a sound mind again. No. You opened yourself up to this thing. And if you are humble enough to cry out like Peter did, then the Lord can restore you. The Lord can place you back on the straight and narrow path. He can place you back on the road. But you gotta be humble enough to cry out. Some people may feel like, man, I just messed up. Peter could have felt very discouraged and he could have just let himself drown. He didn't have to cry out because that takes a lot. First of all, that's embarrassing. You have to understand that the other disciples, they were right there. How do you think Matthew recorded this? How do you think Matthew got this? No, they were right there. And so in the midst of his peers, in the midst of the other disciples, he drowned. How embarrassing is that? Like, yeah, we just saw that. we all just saw that. It wasn't like Peter was alone on the boat and it was just him and Jesus. Like, no, there were other disciples there. And, they had thoughts. They had thoughts like, whoa, Peter, you drowned, man. You should have just never done it. You should have never do it, man. I told you. I don't think you should have done it. And so Peter could have felt all kinds of emotions. He could have felt shame. He could have felt embarrassed. He could have felt worthless. He could have felt like, man, I'm never doing this again. He could have felt very discouraged, very sad, very depressed, like I just drowned. And at some point, like I said, he could have just gave up. He could have just completely gave up. And self-condemnation could have eaten him up. That could have ate him up. It could have begun to make him feel like, I knew I should have never tried this. Why did I even open my mouth? Yeah, your outer soul can begin to start lying to you and making you feel like that was a bad idea. Never open your mouth again. But you know what? Peter cried out. That takes effort. That takes faith. That takes faith. Although in that moment he lost faith, it took faith for him to cry out. And so we can humble ourselves. When we do find ourselves veering off in the faith and, this circumstance pulled us out of the will, it took you out of the will for a moment. Yeah, it caused you to begin to make some bad decisions. You started to walk in some doubt. You started to walk in some unbelief. It veered you off. It took you into another direction. You don't know how you got here, but you're here. You're here. And so you can make one or two decisions. Either you can cry out and ask the Lord to place you back in his will, or you can walk in pride and feel like, I'm not even going to try. You can feel like God does not want to help me. God sees that I made this bad decision. Then, I might as well just stay out here. I might as well just try and make my way back on my own. What if Peter would have tried to do this on his own? But he was so wise. That's what I love reading about Peter and him walking on water, because there's so much to pull out of that. There's so many different ways this could have went. Yeah, he walked. Yeah, he drowned, but he cried out. He cried out. He didn't think to himself that, you know what, I'll try to swim back to the boat myself. I'll get myself out of this myself. No, Peter cried out. And that takes humility. That takes effort. That took faith. A lot of people are not walking in faith. They don't have that level of faith because they're going to look at the fact, but I drowned. Peter didn't just, his mind wasn't just set on the fact that I drowned. Like, no, I need help right now. I need help. Either I can continue to drown or I can cry out. I can cry out. You know what they say? It's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. Yeah. It's the one that's loud enough to cry out that's going to get help. You know, back in the Old Testament, when a woman was being forced, meaning being raped against her will, it says, I believe in Deuteronomy, that if she did not cry out, if she did not cry out for help, then if they got caught, if her and this guy got caught in the act, they both got stoned. No, you did not cry out. You were guilty by association. Your silence said that you were in agreement. And so sometimes we can think that us not crying out is okay because we feel like, man, that's going to make me look weak. Okay, Peter didn't care that how that made him look. Hey, I'm drowning. This is real for me right now. I am afraid. Jesus, I need you. And so he cried out. He opened his mouth. He made a loud sound. And so the woman back then, when she would cry out, someone heard her. When she would cry loud enough, someone heard her. And she was able to get free from this situation. And so a lot of times we may think that crying out makes us look weak, but it saves you. It saves you. If you're going to let pride take place of humility, then you're not going to get the help that you need. Yeah, you're going to stay off the road. You're going to stay off course. You know, when you're running the race, then you are going to be the one that falls off on the sideline. You are going to be the one that trips because you're so focused on everything else, and you're going to be the one that stays down because you're looking at the fact that you just fell. Instead of getting back up and finishing the race, you are waddling in your mess. You're waddling in the fact that, man, I just fell. Oh, man, that person just passed me. That person just passed me. Man, everybody is passing me. I'm so discouraged. If you stay in that state of mind, if you focus on the fact that you are on the ground instead of getting back up, the word of God says that a just man, he falls, but he gets back up. If you focus on the fact that you are on the ground, then you are going to stay on the ground. But if you get back up, Jesus is already cheering you on. He's already at the end of the race, cheering you on. The heavenly hosts, they are cheering you on and they're saying, you can do this. You can do this. Get back up. Keep going. Keep running. Don't focus on the left or to the right. It's okay that you veered off. Get back on the road. Get back on the track. Keep going. Keep running. It doesn't matter who's passing you. You can do this. You can finish the race. And so you can either make one or two decisions. You can stay down and fold your arms and pout and shake your head and cry, or you can get back up and finish this race. You can get up, dust yourself off, straighten up your posture and your disposition, and you can keep running. It doesn't matter what place you come in. The fact is that you finish the race. Jesus is not worried about what place you fall in. He says that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And so there is no first place when it comes to making it into heaven. No, everybody is going to get there in their own pace. Some are running faster than others. As long as you stay in it, you're going to make it. As long as you stay in it, you are going to make it. My pastor says something very beautiful last night. He says that God is rewarding the overcomers. The Holy Spirit is blessing the overcomers because they overcame. Yeah, you get to be blessed because you overcame. You went through a lot of different things, and we are going to face some things in this life. Jesus says that in this world, we're going to have tribulation. And so it's no surprise when we go through things, we have to learn how to keep our eyes on him. We have to learn how to keep our focus on him. And in that, he's going to reward you. He's going to bless you. He's going to give you the stamina that you need. You say, Lord, I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. I feel like my knees are about to give out. I feel like my legs are about to give out. I feel like I am about to lose my breath. But the fact that you are asking the Lord and you are talking to the Lord about these things, the Lord can give you stamina. He can give you strength. The joy of the Lord is your strength. He can give you stamina. He can give you the breath that you need to finish this race. He can give you the help that you need to endure. Yeah, he wants you to overcome. Jesus wants you to finish the race. He wants you to keep running. He knows that there's going to be those strange voices on the sideline trying to discourage you. That's the devil and that's your outer soul. He knows. And he's saying break past those. Break past those barriers. Break past those walls. Break beyond you. Break beyond your flesh. Go beyond your emotions. Go beyond your sights, your senses. Go beyond what you see and what you hear. Go beyond, because not everything that you see and you hear is what it is. Peter focused on the wind, and maybe the winds And the storm wasn't as bad as he thought it was. But it took for him to have to go beyond that. You got to go beyond you. You got to go beyond what's around you. Yeah, your surroundings, sometimes it can be deceiving. And that's how the enemy works, making you feel like this situation is so bad that you got to be, fearful. This situation is so bad that you got to be sad. You got to be discouraged. This situation is so bad that you got to give yourself to just being down when you don't have to. No, it's not that bad. How do I know it's not that bad? Because Jesus Christ is still on the throne. And I don't have to live by what I see and how I feel. I get to decide how I feel about the situation. I get to decide how to feel about the fact that I just drowned or that I started to sink. I get to decide how am I going to feel. You get to decide about how you're going to feel about the fact that you just fell in front of everybody. The people that's passing you, the people that's cheering you on, the people that's on the sideline, you get to decide how to feel. Jesus is cheering you on. The heavenly host is cheering you on. The devil and everybody else that want to, speak accusations against you. They see you. They see you. Your friends that are running the race with you, they see you. You get to decide how you're going to feel. How am I going to feel, man? Not only did you fall, but you just fell in front of everybody. Your enemies and your friends. You just fell in front of everybody. Now, you get to decide how you're going to feel. And what you're going to do from here. Man, I just fell. Oh, let me get back up. Let me get back up. Why? Jesus Christ is still on the throne. And I hear him. I hear his voice over the enemy, over the naysayers, over those who wants to discourage me and tell me it doesn't take all of that. I hear his voice because I'm still so focused. You can be so focused too. Peter was still focused on the fact that Jesus was right there. Oh no, I'm still focused because I still hear his voice. I still hear his voice. That's how focused I am. Even though I fell, even though for a moment, I veered off. For a moment, this thing distracted me. Yeah, you got to learn how to press past the distractions. You can rebuke the distraction. You can rebuke the distractions and you can decide to not focus on the distractions because that's what the distractions come to do. It comes to detract your focus, to pull your focus from what's important and what's vital in that moment. Detract. I think that's one of the root words from distract. Yeah, detract. It's pulling, it's taking away from your focus. It's taking away from your focus. It's pulling away from what you should be focused on. Just like that person driving that car. Something pulled their focus. That's why they said this was a distracted driver. What does that mean? Something pulled their focus away from what they were supposed to be focused on. Regardless of what it was, whether that person was texting, whether that person was eating and putting on makeup and trying to look behind them and do something behind them, something took their focus. As sons of God, we got to learn how to press past the distractions. And we also have to know the God that we serve and that he has our best interests at heart. And we have to believe that regardless of what we're facing in this season. Sometimes you go through a season that's harder than other seasons. But we have to know that Jesus Christ is still on the throne and that he's cheering us on. He's here for us. He's near. He's not a God that's afar off. His hand is not too short that he can't reach down and save. His ear is not too heavy that he can't hear you. He's ever present. He's a present help in the time of trouble. We read about that. We know that that's what the word of God says. He's a present help in the time of trouble. That means he's near. He's near. He's right here. He's one call away. He's one call away. This isn't a long distance relationship unless you want it to be. Unless you're separate from God, unless you're distant from God, this does not have to be a long distance relationship. Jesus says that if we draw near to God, he will draw near to us. If I position myself to be closer, to sit close, to sit near, because he's called me close. He's invited me up higher. And so if I sit close, if I pay close attention, if I tune my eyes and my ears in, then I don't have to worry about anything else around me. Because in him, I find peace. In him, I find strength. In him, I find joy. In him, I find everything that I need. And so nothing else matters around me. We got to get to that place where nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. That's why the sons of God, that's why Jesus says, his peace he leaves with us. He says, my peace I leave with you. Not the peace like the world, not the peace that the world gives. My peace I leave with you. And we're going to need that peace in the days ahead. The world is not going to have peace. And they're going to be trying to figure out how is it possible that you have peace right now when all of this is going on, when all these outbreaks, there's been a takeover. The United States has been taken over. We've been, we've come into a place where we've been invaded. How do you still have peace? Because I have Jesus, and Jesus is peace. He's the Prince of Peace, and I have him. If I have Jesus, I have peace. No Jesus, no peace. If I have Jesus, I have peace. And so that's the reality. That's the reality of keeping our eyes stayed on the Lord. We got to keep our eyes stayed on the Lord. If I veer off in my faith, I better be striving to get back on course. I better be striving to get back on this track and to finish my race. That's the end goal. I need to get to my destination. If I swerve to the left or to the right, I need to get back on the road and get to my final destination. Yeah, man, I just drove off the curb. I just hit that corner. Well, I better get back on the road and I better realign my focus, because me bumping the curb or veering off lets me know that I'm distracted right now, and I need to pay close attention right now, very close attention, because it could have went worse. It could have got worse. And so those bumps, sometimes you need to bump your head. Sometimes you need to hit the curb or hit the corner to let you know that, hey, you're distracted right now. You are distracted right now. And so I need to know that I can get back on course, I can get back on the road, and I can head to where I am supposed to be, because we are going somewhere and we have a place to be. At the appointed time, we better arrive to our final destination. And I pray for you and for me that is heaven. And by the grace of God, for me, it is heaven. In Jesus' name, be encouraged.